Hi, everybody, and welcome to another DevCamp session. In this session, we're going to talk about using Azure IoT Hub with Meadow. So first off, we have to ask ourselves, what is Azure IoT Hub? So this is a way to provide a cloud-hosted solution backend to connect virtually any device, especially for embedded devices that have connectivity. This provides an overall global way to connect and manage different devices that are monitoring different, using sensors or controlling any other machinery with it. And at the top of that, they provide a security enhanced communication channel for sending and receiving data from IoT devices. So this is an extra layer of security to try to avoid hacking or people, with malicious intends to, hack into our IoT projects and take control over our devices on the field. So I'm going to show, as usual, I'm going to show you a demo of what I have right now, and then I'll give you more insight into how this project was put together. So let me go into my top-down camera here. I have a Project Lab V2 running on Azure IoT sample. Notice that it's using the BME 688 environmental sensor, and it's constantly activating and doing a reading. And each reading, after every few seconds, it's going to send data back into Azure IoT Hub. You can see that refreshing icon turns into a solid black for 1 second, and then it turns back into a fade to indicate us when it's syncing with the cloud. And also on the right top corner, it shows us the Wi-Fi connection. So as this device is sending data to Azure, I have a local website that is grabbing that data from Azure and plotting it into a graph here. So as you can see, it's getting the temperature readings at the same time is measuring humidity and pressure. They're all graphed here. So every 10 seconds or so, they're just going to be showing how the temperature changes. So if I even place my finger on top of the sensor, you can see how it's going to spike about 1 degree, I think, there. Spiked for a little bit, just to show you how it's working. And so for this, I have a blog post on our Wilderness Labs website that shows you how to set up your IoT Hub for your Meadow projects. So if you follow this guide, it's going to show you how to create your resource group and all the different steps of how to register or create an IoT Hub space. And finally, you start adding your Meadow device onto it, and you can create your SAS token, which is your key, your validation key that you'll need to pass into your device to provision it and so it's able to connect and send data into the Azure IoT Hub. And after doing all that, if we look at the project in Visual Studio, you can see right now as it's running it, you can see the data sent every second. It's creating a payload, it creates a message, sends the message, which is the values that we're sending here in JSON format. Not here, but we're serializing them in the logic. And so the Meadow Azure IoT Hub project, it has several. This is all, the sample is all available in the Meadow Project Lab samples GitHub repo, so you can take a closer look at how this is all built. I just want to give you an overall of where everything, how everything comes together. So if we take a look at the Meadow app main class of this application, we subscribe to the network connected event handler, which triggers whenever Meadow joins the network automatically due to the configuration files that are already set in. That's passing on by Wi-Fi config. YAML has my Wi-Fi credentials, and after it's connected, I use the AMQP communication controller to initialize and establish connection with Azure. And finally, it starts sending messages. So we also have the environmental sensor. We're setting it to start updating every 15 seconds. So every 15 seconds, the sensor is gonna activate, perform a reading, and every time it reads, it's gonna send the environmental sensor reading to Azure. So if we look at the AMQP controller class here, let's go to the definition. And if you see in the initialize, this is where all the connectivity logic happens. So it has a host name, you pass in the device ID along with the hub name, a server address, and you create with a factory connection. We create a connection object that it's the one that we're going to use to send this data to Azure. And we have this logic for send environmental reading as they pass in my temperature, humidity, and pressure. You can see here I am building my message payload, and I ultimately create a message. And finally, just doing sender.send message is when I'm finally sending that message to Azure. And you can see here in the output, this is the output that we were getting about data sent with the readings for the temperature, humidity, and pressure. So requirements for this in the NuGet package scheme of things, you need to add the Meadow.amqp net lite NuGet package. It's the one that we need to establish a connection with Azure as well. And as for that, we also have in our samples repo, we also have a web Azure IoT Hub local website. So if you have your launch.json, you can put your information here, the required values. You need an IoT Hub connection string along with the Event Hub consumer group that you've created. And finally, you just run this on debug, and you open a browser, go to localhost 2 dots and 3000 port, and you'll see that you'll start getting data and be plotted into this graph like this. So this project is available in our Hackster project. It has in our Hackster space. You can see both how to send the data from the project lab to IoT Hub in Azure. And the part 2 would be to visualize the Azure IoT Hub data with .NET web application. If you don't have a project lab and you have a good old dev kit, you can also, I also made a dev kit version as well that you can also swap that temperature data, that temperature sensor with another one that you might have at hand. And that's pretty much the gist of what I wanted to show you in this project. So stay tuned for any other upcoming sessions, and you keep learning more about Meadow and the other exciting features that we have on store. Thank you very much.